My name is Mitch. I first met John when I was about 16 or 17 years old. I had just gotten out of a adolescent treatment facility and was still having a lot of problems in my life. I didn't know who I was, I didn't know where I was going, and I was totally lost. My family I had put them through too much, and they had chosen to cut me off, and that was something that was hard for me, but ended up teaching me everything I needed to know to become a better person and who I am today. And during those times when I was on my own, I had a lot of very positive energies and a lot of good people that influenced my life in a very positive way and made me see that there was still good people who were out in this world. And John Delaney was one of those people. He took me in when no one else would, and when I was just hopeless and lost, he still saw the good in me. He invited me to his house, he let me meet his family, he let me share very glorious and memorable occasions in his house and with him. He taught me a lot about life and a lot about people and how people are scared and afraid to just be themselves, and John was one of those people that would encourage you to be who you are. Bonnie used to wake me and John up for school for a good 6 months when I'd be sleeping on one of the beanbags right here in this room before it was remodeled and when John was still living in here. And she would get me up for school, and she would get me there when everyone else had given up on me and I had nowhere else to go. John kept me going and kept me going to school. I ended up eventually going back to rehab and leaving, and that was one of the reasons why I hadn't seen John for so long. I moved to Boston, where John was originally from, and I learned a lot there on my junior year, and then I came back and I went back to Hillcrest. And sure enough, all my friends were there and just wondering how I was and just still trying to love me and accept me for who I was. And because John was from Boston, me and him grew a little bit closer even from the first time. And I kept coming over here and feeling the love and the acceptance and just the beauty of, I don't even know how to describe it, just accepted emotion throughout all of us, and it was a good time. I eventually went my separate ways and got into a little bit deeper into the life I was living, and me and John stopped talking as he went to college and as I battled drug addiction and loss in my personal life and such. And I hadn't talked to him for about 4 or 5 years after I went to high school with him. But, we'd chat here and there, and I'd talk to him, and it was always a positive experience with John. He was always just so accepting. It was like the leaving off the day we last said goodbye. He was just, how are you doing since then? How's everything? Just totally nothing has changed. John still loved you unconditionally, whether it had been a month, 2 years, 3 years, John still loved you. And that was something that I will never forget about him. And he, we had talked a little bit, and eventually a couple more years had passed. I'd gotten clean, some more things had happened in my life, and I eventually got sober. I've been sober for about 3 years, and I still drink and I still smoke, but I have not picked up a hard drug in 3 years. But about 2 months ago, John had called me, wanted to reconnect, and my fiance was at work, and I was like, sure, come over, hang out. And I was talking to John, and we split a 12-pack and just had some amazing conversations around my campfire, and just, he talked like no one else that was in my circle talked. He expressed his ideas and his views, no matter how askewed or how far-fetched he thought people would think about him or controversial, he expressed how he felt about the world at all times. And I hadn't had a good conversation like that with a person in a very long time. And we talked for about 7 hours, and I had about 3/4 of watermelon in my fridge, and we ended up just getting real hungry, but both couldn't drive at the moment. So we just ate this 3/4 of watermelon with 2 spoons as my 7 dogs were licking it up off the ground as we're slurping it up. And I don't know, we were just goofing off trying to say how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood with as much watermelon in your mouth. We were just doing stupid stuff, just hanging out and being free and no judgment. And that's what you felt around John, was no judgment. Whether you hadn't seen him for 2-3 years or 2-3 days, the impact he had on your life was substantial and meant something. And I will never forget John Delaney or how he helped me in my road to recovery or the things he taught me. I'm just so sad I didn't get to spend more time with him, and I couldn't help him more. I just know that he helps me every day now, and I feel his presence, and that's what keeps me going. I just know that all of the people I've loved and all of the people that were lost in that world have now been able to help others that are struggling in that and keep their voice and their energy alive through all of us every day. And that's what John does. He breathes his life into you every day. You just need to inhale and accept it. You can feel him. And I still do. I miss John. I wish he was here. But I'll always remember and cherish the time we had.